Hey guys, welcome to today's vlog. It is currently 5 a.m, hence why I am whispering right now. But in this vlog, we're just gonna be reading for about a week and see how much I can realistically read in the span of 1 week time. For the first book of this video, we're gonna be reading The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I kid you not. Since the moment I heard the announcement of the release of this book, I have been wanting to read this because if you guys don't know, Leigh Bardugo is one of the auto purchase author for me, and I've been just waiting and waiting for the release of this book. I've actually had this book for about 2 weeks now, but I've been very busy with work and everything that I just didn't really have time to read it. So now would be the time. I got it in this like beautiful blue hardcover and like the black sprayed edges, which I think is literally such a beautiful addition of the book. On top of that, I also got it on my Kindle because I didn't really want to bring around just like a big chunky hardcover book on the subway, and I do read a lot in the subway, so I thought it'd be good for me to get it on my Kindle so I can just bring it around and it's very convenient. So I also have it in a digital version. I'm really excited about it. I am not really sure what it's actually about. I just know that it's like a gothic horror story about witches and stuff like that. But anyways, it's Leigh Bardugo, so I am sure that the book will be good. So yeah, let's get on to the rest of the video. Okay, first and foremost, I would like to apologize if the audio for this video is quite bad. I'm testing out this new microphone here, so I won't have to speak as loudly as I do usually. Anyways, aside from that, I've made a few progress on The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I've only been able to read about 30 pages into it on my way to school as well as on my way back. But so far, basically, what the story is about is we are following this girl named Lucia who is a servant for this woman named Donna Valentina, and we came to find out that Lucia is able to perform magic. Though so far, the only things that we've seen is her doing things like mending a broken glass or turning a burnt bread into a perfectly good baked bread. And we haven't really seen much more than that. And we haven't really explored much of the magic system other than the fact that we know that she performs magic by sort of singing these verses that is basically like a sort of incantation. And so far this book is definitely less dark than I thought it was going to be. Like, going into it, I thought it was going to be, giving like a horror gothic vibe, but so far it's not really that. But however, I'm still very interested in reading this book because I feel like the characters are very interesting. There's something about the way Lee Bardugo writes her characters that just sticks with you, and just her writing in general is so beautiful in the way that it's like almost poetic, but not in a way that is hard to read. I feel like I'm still able to sort of follow her story well and sort of imagine her story well, but also with her having such a beautiful, beautiful writing. And that is something that I've always loved about Lee Bardugo's books. So yeah, I think I'm just going to read a little bit more into this, and I think I'm going to maybe watch a movie afterwards, or honestly just lay in bed and rest, because yesterday I was honestly only getting 3 hours of sleep, and today when I was reading on the subway, I feel like I can feel my eyes dozing off already. So yeah, I will update you guys some more once I've made more of a progress on this book. for today, which is the first update for today, which is Tuesday. So I've read some more of The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I'm about 27% into it now, I would say. And so far, I feel like the plot has definitely picked up more, where we are introduced that our character is entering some kind of a competition, which makes it just a lot more suspenseful. We're, getting to be more sort of curious about what happens next. So I'm really excited about where the plot is heading. I think that it will just be honestly a fun time to read. Though I do have to say something that I've noticed about this book that I feel like Leigh Bardugo has never done before with her previous books is that this book changes point of views from time to time, but there's no like kind of introduction, like for example, for us to know whose point of views like we're following right now. It's just like usually it would be broken by a different paragraphs and stuff like that, but you would just be reading in the same chapter but different paragraphs, and you would suddenly be like, oh, so we're following this person's point of view right now. So yeah, and it does happen quite a few times. So I do find that a little bit weird and sometimes a little bit hard to read, but that is fine. We are still enjoying this book, and there's not really much else that I can say because I've only made quite a bit of progress on this one. Though I am putting the book down for tonight because tomorrow is public holiday and I am planning to stay up for the night and just read some really fun horror book, I think. So yeah. Anyways, I am planning to read this book that I've seen pretty much everywhere at this point. I think it's The New Couple in 5B. So I think I first stumbled upon this book from like a Goodreads recommendation, and then I saw a YouTuber's video where she read this book, and she said that it is giving sort of like American Horror Story, and just like it's horror and it's thriller, and I just thought it would be so much fun to read this book during the nighttime. And since my hold for the audiobook from the library has came in, I thought that tonight it would be a really fun time for me to just read some horror books, get spooked out. So I have it on my Kindle and I also have it on audiobook, so I think from time to time I will just change around the format and see which one works better. So that is what I'm going to be reading for tonight. I will update you guys once I've made some more progress into this book as well, or maybe when I finish it tonight. We'll see. So yeah, see you guys in the next update. last reading update, so I just want to talk about the books I've read so far and my thoughts on it. So the first one we're gonna discuss is the book that I just finished a couple of days ago. That is The New Couple in 5B. I did end up enjoying this book quite a lot. I feel like the character was very strong and the plot twist in the end was quite good, and I did not end up predicting it. So what is the book about? Basically, we're following the point of view of our main character named Rosie, and we were introduced that Rosie's husband's relative named Ivan had recently passed away, and during the reading of his will, the apartment unit that he used to live in was basically handed and given to the couple. Now, this seemed like a really good opportunity for the couple, as we were informed that they have recently been having trouble financially and are both struggling with each of their careers. But as our main character visits the building, weird stuff starts to happen. Also, the tenants of the building seemed very suspicious. From there, we're just sort of following to see what is actually happening. Our main character is given this kind of like background and like family background of how she grew up, which gave her this sort of personality and character of an unreliable narrator, which I feel like really sets up the ambiance of the book really well. I mean, I feel like the book isn't necessarily anything new or remarkable or like never done before, but I feel like it was sort of good for what it is, because as you guys saw, I did sort of stay up the night to read this book, and I think I stayed up until around 4 a.m. and then I was like super tired, so I ended up going to sleep. But I feel like it was good for the time that I was reading it and sort of the mind condition that I was in when I was reading this book. It was an easy thriller to read with a sprinkle of mystery. Though, as I said in my last update, I was hoping to get spooked when I'm reading this book. It didn't really necessarily give me that feeling, but not that it's the book's fault, because I feel like recently, as I consume more horror medias like horror movies or horror books, I feel like I'm almost becoming a little bit desensitized to it. Like, I still get disturbed and disgusted with a lot of like disturbing movies or books that contain stuff like human violence or SA, but things like supernatural, things like haunted house or ghosts doesn't really spook me anymore. I would still enjoy it. I would say like, oh, that's a good book, oh, that's a good supernatural horror movie, but I don't really like get spooked in the way that is like, oh, after reading this I absolutely cannot sleep. But that's okay. It's still a good book. It still did what it intended to do, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. So the next book that I actually just finished a couple of hours ago, oh my god, guys, we made it to the end of The Familiar by Lee Bardugo. Okay, a little disclaimer before going into this book. If you're looking for a book that is fast-paced or action-packed, this is not going to be the book for you. I would even say that this book is definitely more of a slow burn plot-wise. I do feel like, especially for the first few percent of the book, like the first few pages of the book, it was sort of a bit hard for me to get into. I would be reading this book and I would be wondering like, where exactly is this story going and what is this book even about? And even things like their magic system, until the end of the book, I feel like it isn't really fully explained for things like the origin of the magic system or how the magic really works. And it's not really a problem for me, because to me it's not really something that is super important to the plot, though I feel like it could be a problem for people who wanted like a bigger world building in their books. I feel like it did what it needed to do as a standalone, because it's not even really that thick of a book, so it did what it needed to do for like a 300 plus pages. though I do definitely say that the plot got way more interesting during like the next 50% of the book. It really picked up. Also about the change of point of view thing that I mentioned in the last update, with the point of view suddenly changing when the paragraph changes, even if it's in the same chapter, basically went on until the end of the book. But I do feel like the character whose point of views we're following are somewhat distinct enough that I can tell whose point of view we are following as I'm reading more into the story, as I got more used to it. I feel like at first it definitely was quite confusing because I was like, oh, like who are we following now, and like who is actually the main character of this book. I would say the main character definitely is Lucia, but with the change of point of views throughout the books, I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is how the writing is gonna work. And the writing is still very beautiful, very very beautiful, which I can definitely say for all of Leigh Bardugo's books. The ending, oh my god. I feel like for me, the ending is exactly how I feel like the book should end, with the circumstances that the main characters were in during the last few pages of the book. Like, it's definitely the most sensible and realistic route in my opinion, and for me, I honestly don't mind it. I was also tearing up a little bit earlier at the cafe that I was reading at. If you know, you know the rosemary thing. Oh my god, tears were prickling my eyes. Another thing that I have to say is, okay, there's this little sprinkle of romance in this book, just like a sprinkle of romance, but I feel like I wish that it was a bigger part of the book. Leigh Bardugo has a way to write really convincing romances and a really good chemistry between the character. Even in this book, the chemistry is so good, and there would be like progresses to the romance itself that we didn't really get to see written on page. The character would go through it, but we didn't really see it on page. I just wish that it was a bigger part of the book. I will always be a romance girly, especially romance with fantasy. It's just so good, and I just wish that it was a bigger part of this book. But I do really liked what we were given. For the rating, I was debating between giving it 4 stars or 4.5 stars, but I was comparing it to Ninth House, which I gave 4.5 stars, and I do still feel like that book is slightly better than this one, but I do also feel like it's not, I wouldn't give it as low of a rating as 4 stars, so I ended up giving it 4.25 stars, which I think this is the first book that I've given that rating because I really could not decide. I just feel like it's exactly in between a 4.5 to a 4 stars. So yeah, I mean, I feel like as I'm reading more and more books, I just need more decimals to determine the ratings of the book. Anyways, I do still definitely recommend reading this book. It's just that I would say definitely adjust your expectation. Like, going into it, it was definitely different for me from what I thought it was going to be to what the actual ambience, plot, and the story of the book ended up being. Like, at first, as you can see from my first update, I thought it was going to be like a more horror style book, but it's definitely more of a historical fiction or like historical fantasy vibes. It's quite different from the books that she has previously written. So yeah, I would say definitely adjust your expectation, and I can guarantee you, you will 100% enjoy this book because I definitely did enjoy it a lot. So that's The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Okay, so for my next book, I'm not really sure what I want to read yet. I did pick up Light Lark from the library a couple of days ago, but I don't know if I'm feeling like reading a fantasy book right now because I just finished one. So I don't know, like I might make a separate video reading this book, and I feel like right now I'm sort of more in a thriller mood, like a mystery thriller. So I also did pick up the writing retreat by Julia Bards earlier at the library. I don't really know much about what this book is about. I just know that it is about this aspiring author who is invited to this writer's retreat in a secluded remote place by this super famous author, and that there are like other writers there that are invited as well. And basically one of them disappeared and we're trying to figure out what happened. Like, I feel like that is such an interesting premise for a mystery thriller book. It's like, oh my gosh, I love like secluded remote places, for example like cabin in the woods and stuff like that. So I think it's gonna be really fun. So I might end up reading this. I will definitely update you guys more as I'm reading or decide what I want to read, and yeah, I'll update you guys on my reading progress in the next update. So see you in the next update. So I just finished The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. The book is basically pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's just about this girl named Alex. She works at a publishing company and she used to be a part of this writing group. So she basically writes leisurely, like writes for fun and stuff like that. And one day, after her friend's book publishing party, she had a phone call with this friend. And basically, she told her that her agent got her into this writing retreat that is hosted by one of her very favorite author, Rosa Vallow. And at the start of the book, we were also introduced that about a year ago, she had a falling out with one of her closest friend named Ren. And the premise is Ren is also invited to this writings retreat. So basically the journey kind of went on there. I genuinely really liked this book. Like, I would say plot wise, this book is a 5-star. It's just that the writing feels a little bit weird for me at times. Like, this is definitely an adult thriller. It's just that I feel like from the writing, sometimes I'm getting kind of like a YA vibe, from the dialogues of the characters, and when we are inside the head of our main character, it just sometimes feels a little bit YA, even though the book is definitely an adult thriller. And some of the dialogues in this book is just like, whoa. I just like, I don't really know how I feel about that, but again, plot wise, 5 stars. I love it. It's just the writing kind of takes down the ratings a notch. So I gave it 4.75 stars, which is still really good, and I definitely recommend you guys to pick this book up. It's just like, it's so campy, like the remote location, and then the snowstorm that was happening. It was just, the vibe is there. And I was also listening to the audiobook for a portion of this book, like a couple of chapters, because I wanted to try out. The narrator of the audiobook does the job so well. She narrates the story and she narrates the dialogues of the characters so well with so much emotion. I literally found myself being at the edge of my seat. Like, I don't think I felt this way about reading thrillers in quite a long time now, where I'm genuinely so tense and my heart is like beating so fast for these characters, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what is going to happen next, and I am literally dreading it. Do you know, like, when you're reading thriller books and you know something bad is going to happen and you're just on your seat reading the book, waiting for that moment to come on, and it just like put me in this sort of state of emotion where I'm just like at the edge of my seat and so tense, and I was literally like gasping. Like, my reaction to this book was like so verbal. Literally audibly gasped when one of the scenes happened. Okay, the camera cut me off midway there, but as I was saying, I did end up guessing one of the plot twists that happened in the book, and I feel like, okay, I feel a little bit sad at the fact that I was able to guess it, obviously, because we all wanted that moment of what, like, oh my gosh, this is the twist. Like, but it was okay because I feel like as I was guessing the twist, as I was saying like, okay, this kind of has to be the twist, right? Because I feel like if this is not the twist that is going to happen in the book, I would low-key feel disappointed. So, at the same time, I'm sad about guessing it, but I felt like if the twist had not been that, I would have felt disappointed in the outcome of the book. So anyways, I really do recommend y'all to pick this book up if you guys have heard it before and have been thinking about, oh, I want to pick it up, but I'm not sure if it's gonna be good or not. You gotta do it. Oh my gosh. And like the last few chapters of the book was literally so tense, and it was like, it's just so good. It's just so good, and it was exactly the kind of thriller that I was looking for at the moment, and it fulfilled it. So yeah, that is The Writings Retreat by Julia Bartz. Please read it. Alright, so this is the second time I'm filming this outro, and hopefully the audio for this one is okay. I think the microphone that I usually use is broken or something, so hopefully the phone will be able to catch my voice nice enough for me to film the outro. Basically, I was editing and I noticed that I did not in fact film an outro for this video, so here's me doing it now. First of all, thank you guys so much if you guys are watching until the end. Thank you so much for watching, and let's get to the wrap up of this video. So I ended up reading about 3 books in the span of 1 week, and this is about 1,082 pages, which is a lot and is actually really good for this reading week. Here are the books that I ended up reading. It's The New Couple in 5B by Lisa Unger, and then The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, and The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. Also, I do have to say that this reading week has been so good. Like, all of the books that I read have been 4 stars and above, which is so rare for me to, in the span of 1 week, read such good book one after another, and this just put me in the biggest reading mood. So this week I'm like in a really good reading mood because I've been reading good books after good books, and yeah, it's just these books are genuinely so good, and I do definitely recommend to read each and every single one of them. I was also able to read more than I thought I would, especially considering that I'm only able to read when I'm commuting to and from school and after school. So I've been able to read a lot, and audiobooks definitely help a lot, especially when I was reading this book. I was hanging onto the audiobook and it's worked really well. The narrator of the book did such a good job narrating the story with all the emotion and everything. Again, that's all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully I will be able to do more of these videos in the future and read more amazing books in the future and share it with you guys. So thank you guys so much for sticking until now. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.